Up and at 'em on a Tuesday morning. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, as we get you up and get you going. A chilly Tuesday morning that, as I heard on a weather report coming in, is supposed to develop into a nice Tuesday afternoon. I thought, ooh, nice. And the weather report finished with low 80s. I was like, no, that's not nice. It's an improvement over what we've had, Preston. But it is a way to start a Tuesday morning, a positive spin on a day that I feel like we're going to have to kind of guide you through because of last night. Your newfound love affair, unfortunately, falls on its face in the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, it was a tough night for Skol Nation. Proud of the boys, though. But I would like to say that with the ending of our season coming to an abrupt end, I will be searching for options.
Okay.
I will be searching for options. We were on a one-year continuing deal, and we're going to see what we have coming back next year. And great year. Love Skol Nation for all that they've done for me, all that we've done for each other. But we're in the market.
Okay. All right.
I kind of like this idea of having the team for a year.
It's an interesting concept and maybe one that we can create a fad out of, a brand new idea. You pick a team for the year and roll with them. Look, in college football, that's a perfectly allowable offense. It's perfectly okay. Enter the transfer portal at necessary.
Let's just see if those teams will give you some NIL money.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm open. Throw me some gear. I'm willing to look out there. There's a lot of coaching changes, so who knows? Things are changing.
Now, obviously, one part about this is that we have not heard directly from the Minnesota Vikings right now. The question is, did they want Preston Thorne back? I mean, you've got two different kind of scenarios here. You've got a Carson Beck scenario where Preston Thorne has looked around, has realized, he can go to a warmer spot, make more money than most second-round NFL draft picks make on a signing bonus, have a nice one-year stop, maybe hang out with a female accomplice, or you can be like Mike McCarthy, who your owner says, yeah, you know what, upon further review, we'll be good without you. Of course, the word out of Dallas, Preston, they couldn't agree on the length of the contract, which I'm not sure as a coach, aren't you kind of like, well, 2 years would be good, I can get it done. In the NFL, college is a little bit different with recruiting, but in the NFL, do you look around and be like, yeah, I'll take 2 years, maybe one more year? NFL length of contracts the same as college length of contracts?
No, you want always more, longer, so that you can have more money. Yeah, that's undisputable. Don't give me one when I can have 3. I need a 3-year deal because when you fire me after 1, I need to get paid for 2 more. And Jerry's like, no, you don't need to come back here, sir.
Well, now he has no job and no pay. Still financially secure in his lifestyle.
I think he's okay.
You think he ends up anywhere else, Mike McCarthy, yesterday?
We'll see. We will see. If you want your team to get, he's a good coach. If you want your team to go from terrible to average and adequate, he might be your guy. If you need a stabilizer in your organization, he might be your guy. I don't know if he'll take you to a championship, but he might be the guy you need.
So plenty to get to today. We'll get into all of that. Also get into a little bit of the Transfer Portal Tuesday. Late last night, I say late, I was in bed, but about 9 o'clock, South Carolina picks up a very interesting piece in the transfer portal. And Preston, this is a piece that I think is a sign of the times. It is an unnecessary piece from the standpoint of talent. South Carolina has some nice pieces coming back in the secondary. Vakari Swain, Judge Collier, 2 guys that are expected, or at least were expected, to be the starting cornerbacks. You've got Jalen Kilgore, who could slide back and take Nick Eamon-Warry's spot. And then you've still got DQ Smith, who's back for another year. Jalewis Solomon is a freshman that they were really excited about. They've already landed one transfer, Ball State transfer, Miles Norwood. But last night, Brandon Cisse from Sumter, South Carolina, who was at North Carolina State, is considered, I should say, one of the top cornerbacks in the transfer portal, commits to South Carolina over schools such as Mississippi, Florida, several other SEC teams. Over 2 seasons, Cisse had 38 total tackles, 5 pass breakups, and an interception. He was the 40th ranked cornerback in the class of 2023, but as they try to do now to figure things out, that number has shot up dramatically with the transfer portal to where he is now considered an elite prospect that people would want to have.
And you always go with the higher number, right? If he was ranked higher in high school, you go with that one. If he's ranked higher now, you go with this one.
What was it? It is Dinwiddie Brown, I believe, was a top 20 prospect in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Was not a top 20 prospect in the transfer portal now that he's committed. So, yes, we cite his high school rankings.
Highest score available. Okay.
So, but I say it's an interesting pickup because, Preston, it's a sign of the times where you probably looked at your secondary room, you looked at Torian Gray's room, and you went, like that. Actually, probably sitting here on January the 14th, no spring ball to be played yet, winter workouts just getting underway this week. Hey, that's probably the strength of our team, strength of our defense right there, the secondary. I really like what we got. And now you add a young man like this who's going to come in, and somebody, Preston, just like you've talked about with junior college, somebody's now looking around the room going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spot, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 guys. I can't play linebacker, and I'm definitely not big enough to play defensive tackle. What just happened here?
Yeah, all of that. We got all we need, and we're the strongest in the room. He's like, Coach, what happened? Who's this guy? Hopefully y'all get along. And yeah, that's what it is. They're like, yeah, we're bringing in somebody else.
So we'll get into that because South Carolina.
I wouldn't trade for anybody in this room. I'll take everybody. There's nobody out there who's better than anybody in the room. Ooh. What is it? Number 20? Okay.
Yeah, guys, walk away. Wouldn't trade you for him, but we are going to bring him for a player to be named later, essentially is what it is.
Guys in this room, I wouldn't trade anybody for.
We'll get J.C. Sherbert's thoughts on this. Cisse has 3 years to play, 2 of eligibility. He is, again, a guy who had plenty of offers in the transfer portal, kind of jumped out. There's been a lot of rumors. And here's the other part. Did we troll? Did we pull one over old Lane Kiffin? Because Lane Kiffin tried to troll us last week. He put out a tweet.
Yeah.
He put out a tweet.
I'm putting it all together now, yes.
Did we finally pull one over old Lane Kiffin? And we'll get into that a little bit this morning. The Gamecocks appear, we'll get J.C. Sherbert's opinion on this. The Gamecocks appear to have had a very nice little run here in the transfer portal. Take it for what it's worth. I don't know when we officially deem it to be a good run in the transfer portal. Do you deem it a good run when that player has graduated and we have their full body of work? Do you deem it a good run on August 31st where if that guy is starting, you're like, all right, that's good? Where do we now in this new evolution of college football recruiting that involves the transfer portal, where do we be like, oh, yeah, that was a solid pickup. That worked out well.
That's a good question. I think for college football purposes, you try and win the recruiting wars like you did any other time. Just like in regular recruiting, you try and have the highest ranked transfer portal class. Then, out of the spring, you see if any guys are projected for starting. Then you can win that. Then, going into August, you can win that. So, there's several opportunities for you to win throughout this time period.
Because I'll give you a perfect example, and you tell me if South Carolina won. Back in the day, Shane Beamer's first year, South Carolina lands Georgia Tech wide receiver Amarion Brown, who had broken Calvin Johnson, some of Calvin Johnson's freshman records. Now, we all knew it was 2 totally different wide receivers, but he had broken some of Calvin Johnson's freshman wide receiver records at Georgia Tech. Would you say that was a win in the transfer portal? I don't think after 3 years of his eligibility, he graduated 2 years ago, mind you, but I would say after 1 year, you'd be like, okay, that wasn't bad. After 2 years, okay, that wasn't bad. But after you looked at the entirety of his career, he was a nice piece. He was there, fairly reliable, did have some key drops at times, but fairly reliable. Was injured and banged up a little bit, but I think you'd be like, all right, he was serviceable to get that wide receiver room going. Would you consider that a win? And that's what I think you have to look at nowadays in these transfer portal to see what exactly is considered a victory and what is considered, well, we just flat missed on that guy.
As I said, multiple opportunities for one, because you win with Amarian Brown then. Now, Amarian was floating around the NFL. You can say, oh, that's our guy. We got him. So, you try and make it as creative as possible.
So we'll get into all of that this morning. A lot of other stuff. J.C. Sherbert will join us coming up in the next hour. We'll get to a little bit of Lamont Paris. They get ready for a trip up to Nashville tomorrow afternoon, it feels like. 6 o'clock game, 5:30 pregame. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game. We'll get you ready for that. The Gamecocks, it is a pivotal week for South Carolina, in my opinion. We'll talk a little bit about that, Preston, with two games that you're going to be underdogs in, but they're more favorable, more winnable than you would probably have deemed at the first three games against teams such as Mississippi State, teams such as Alabama and Auburn. So you look at this week, and 1-1, absolutely imperative. 2-0 would probably make all of us sit up and take notice. Maybe, just maybe, 2-0 would make Colonial Life Arena sound like a South Carolina home game at the very end of a ball game when certain players are trying to shoot free throws, Preston.
It's possible. It's possible. You gotta give us a reason to be there for sure.
So, new rankings out yesterday. Auburn, number 1 in the country. They move up after Tennessee's throttling a week ago at Florida. But the rankings, they don't get any easier if you're just going by that. Number 1, Auburn. Number 4, Alabama. Number 5, Florida, who's set to come in here in a few weeks. Number 6, Tennessee. Number 8, Kentucky. 5 SEC teams. Preston, you talk about it means more. 5 SEC teams in the top 8, not the top 10. 5 SEC teams, Auburn, Bama, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, all in the top 8. I'd say the conference seems to know what it's doing.
If you build it, they will be ranked high. That's the money. The teams go up. You have a lot of opportunities to win, which is only good for us because you get more opportunities to play great teams.
Texas A&M at number 11. Mississippi State at number 15. 7 SEC teams in the top 15. If you thought we were annoying about pounding the drum for football, just wait till a sport that we haven't always been dominant in that we're taking over. SEC. 7 SEC teams in the top 15. You also have Mississippi at 21. Georgia makes their appearance at 23. That is 9 SEC teams in the top 25. The league is pretty strong this year.
And an unranked team who almost beat a number 1 team.
Exactly.
You got to spin it towards us some sort of way.
Missouri also in the receiving votes category.
Well.
And the part about, yes, a team not even receiving votes.
That's right.
That was within
That's
3.
how strong the conference is.
That's right. There you go. So we'll get into all of that.
Any given Tuesday or Saturday.
We'll get into all of that this morning as we can get you up and get you going. 803-404-6100. A lot to get to this morning. Let you talk a little South Carolina basketball. We'll get back into Transfer Portal Tuesday as well. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
Hey, it's Jen for Carolina Stone Craftsman, just outside Columbia in Chapin. Some of the renovations we did recently, we needed countertops for those cabinets that we had gotten. And we were instructed to go to Carolina Stone Craftsman because somebody said they're fantastic. And they were right. We went there, toured the facility, and loved the showroom. Actually popped back out there yesterday. And it's just a beautiful showroom that you certainly want to check out. They teach you a little bit about the affordability of marble and granite and quartz. Everything is sculpted with the highest craftsmanship. Ethan has been doing this a very long time. So much to choose from, lots of education from them, and the outdoor work that they're starting to do. Can't wait to tell you more about that. But if you're in the market for countertops for your kitchen or bath, I do encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman and be sure to tell them that Jen Jensen sent you. They're family-owned, locally operated Carolina Stone Craftsman, just beyond Columbia and Chapin, and definitely beyond your expectations. Visit carolinastonecraftsman.com. And we're starting off the morning with a couple incidences to let you know about. I-26 eastbound near exit 125. Slow down there. Also, I-20 eastbound between Monticello Road and Fairfield, so between exits 68 and 70. And Faro Road near Hardscrabble, also an accident early this morning. Going to warm up, though. We are going to be in the 50s for most of the rest of the week. 54 today, that overnight low 30. 50 tomorrow, 57 on Thursday, 59 on Friday before chances for some weekend rain coming in. But again, a little bit warmer. We will welcome that. Right now, a little chilly and 30 on the early game.
6:20 on a Tuesday morning, fresh off kind of a light night, I think, Preston, you would say, in the sport, especially after going back from last Thursday with college football playoffs, with college basketball so heavy, the NFL playoffs, you did get the one NFL playoff game, but kind of a night to relax, maybe catch up on some streaming flicks.
How could I relax?
Well, not for everybody.
How could I relax when my team was in the middle of a wild card playoff round, which was unrightfully played in a neutral site? We were 14-3. That other team was
10-7.
10-7.
Yeah.
Yet they would have had a home game. Unfortunately, they had to move it to a neutral site. You talking about how could I relax?
Well, maybe not you.
Okay.
The majority of us.
Skull Nation.
And then, unfortunately, last night in the NFL playoffs, played in Glendale, you were allowed to go to bed at halftime.
It was over early.
It was 24-3 at halftime. The Rams were in control. Matt Stafford, 19 of 27 for 209 and 2 touchdowns. Sam Darnold wasn't awful last night, 25 of 40 for 245, a touchdown and an interception, but it was a beating. And now we'll get round 2 of the NFL playoffs coming up this weekend. Should be a little more entertaining. Saw the buzz yesterday. We'll talk more NFL playoffs later, but saw the buzz yesterday. Already it's out there. Are the Chiefs on upset alert? That's going to be what you deal with all week. Are the Chiefs on upset alert? Chiefs and Texans will play 4:30 next Saturday. That'll be the opening game of the divisional round. Chiefs hosting the Texans 4:30. Chiefs right now 7.5-point favorite. The 8 o'clock Saturday night game, Lions hosting the Redskins. That actually should be a lot of fun. 9.5-point favorite of what the Lions are. Sunday, you get the Rams and the Eagles, 3 o'clock from Philadelphia. Eagles a 6-point favorite. And then to wrap it all up next Sunday night, probably the best one of the bunch, Buffalo hosting Baltimore, 6:30 next Sunday night. Baltimore, not Buffalo. Baltimore currently a 1-point favorite. So we'll see how that goes. Not much college basketball last night. Kind of a nice off night. It picks back up in full force tonight with a lot of big games. But we look ahead to Wednesday's game, Preston, against Vanderbilt in Memorial Gymnasium, an odd place to play. I've walked in there when I've been up at Nashville before, but I've never been in there with a crowd or seen a basketball game played. But it is always kind of one of those arenas where the benches are underneath the goals.
Yeah, they do that intentionally.
I've never thought to look and see what exactly prompted the how they go about doing things there the way that they do them. The court is obviously elevated. It's like you're playing on a stage. As we mentioned, the benches are underneath the basket. It's not your typical setup. Minnesota used to have something. It might still used to have something similar, but the benches were still on the sidelines. They were just down off the court.
It's silly. The design is whoever the architects were like, come on, man, we can do better than that.
So
it's an odd setup.
But South Carolina,
it's their home court advantage.
It is. No, it is. It is a legitimate
fall off the stage.
Yeah, exactly. You're 100% right about that. It is their legitimate home court advantage, and it's kind of the quirky little thing that you talk about going up to Nashville and having to participate against and play in, and coaches have to figure out how to coach. But South Carolina is going to need this game, Preston. They are going to need it. And Saturday afternoon after the game, Lamont Paris talked about where his team is relative to where he wants to see them, where his team is at. Now, this is coming off, mind you, I know he's never happy with a loss, but he was seeing this Saturday after a game that he probably felt like they played more like he expected to back in October, November. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I mean, from an energy standpoint, there's, if I look at just like I say, not did you make shots, did you run this play effectively? I'm just talking about the totality of what we did out there as a unit, how they interacted, how they moved, how they communicated, how they fed off of one another, how they came out of the game when they got subbed out, what the energy they had when they went back in the game. Like all those things, really close. I mean, really close. If you can bottle that type of thing up, you're gonna win on most of the days that you perform as a shooter reasonably, right? That's why in my past as a coach, I've always, everybody says a little wish before the game maybe, and I always just hope, aside from no injuries, I always hope that we have a reasonable offensive day. Don't have to break any records. Let's just not have a terrible offensive day. And that normally gets the job done if you're doing some of these other things. And so today we did, and our body of work was there that way. So I think really close in terms of competitive spirit and, like I said, the whole body of what we did as a team. And again, that's without, you never know when your name's going to get called. And we say it all the time. I'll randomly pick a guy that never plays any minutes at practice, and he's got to, when his name gets called, you got to stand up, is what we say. And you got to make a free throw, and if you miss the free throw, the whole team's got to run. And this guy hadn't practiced all day, right? You never know when it's you. You never know when it's your name. So we've tried to live by that, and today we did. We called Arden Conyers' name, and he stood up today for 30 minutes. He hadn't done that, probably hadn't expected that. Benjamin Bozeman-Verdonk goes in there for 10 minutes and is extremely effective in the time that he's in there. That's what we mean when we say that. So some really good performances that way. I think it's really good for our group that you have some guys like that do that. And then you respond properly to it. You got to respond properly to it, and then reap all the rewards of the growth that happens.
Now, a couple things there. I think everybody is accustomed to the very end of practice, even you at the rec league, the end of practice free throw line where you've got to step up and make the free throw or else the whole team does it down and back.
Yep.
Always an enjoyable part of practice, especially if if your team gets on a roll and starts missing 4 or 5 in a row and you're just randomly running. But good to know that's alive and well at the college level.
Old classic. That's old classic. One thing you can really always know about teams is when coaches call a certain player's name and everybody's like, oh.
Yeah. You go ahead and do your down and back.
You see somebody start running.
Yeah. He mentioned in that saying a little, he said, how did he say it? It's basically he didn't say a word of prayer, but saying a little note.
Said a little wish.
Say a little wish. Do you know? He mentioned because then he follows that up with hopes they would have a good offensive day.
It's not what he said. It's not what he said. Okay. These words are important. He said, I hope we have a reasonable offensive day.
Okay.
And that's important because a good offensive day means like people are hitting shots. He's just wanting let's just not stink up the joint.
Well,
we can play defense the rest of the way. He's saying let's not stink up the joint. Just reasonable.
Do you know where South Carolina is at offensively in the SEC?
Below reasonable.
What is below reasonable?
I would say bottom quartile.
They're dead last.
That would not be reasonable.
And quite frankly, there's a 5-point difference, almost a 5-point difference between they and Tennessee. Now, Tennessee was the number 1 team in the country, so this is not just conference stats, but South Carolina's averaging 72.75 points per game. Tennessee, 15th in the league, is 77.13, so it's almost a 5-point difference for them in the league. For those of you wondering, okay, well, who's number 1? Alabama is number 1. Kentucky's 2, Auburn's 3, Florida's 4, Missouri's 5, Mississippi State is 6. So you have now played 3 of the top 6 offenses in the league through this stretch. Vanderbilt, by the way, is number 7. So you'll have played your first 4 games against the top 7 offenses in the league. None of those teams are averaging less than 83 points per game.
Well, that's fine. That's fine because Lamont's style of basketball is not to play to those numbers. You saw if they played against Auburn, the final score was in the 60s, right? Mm-hmm. So what they're going to try and do is muddy up the game, play it down to a lower level, but you can't be dead last. And that dead last showed itself in the last 5 possessions of that game. They were not able to get a bucket when they needed a bucket. Even so, it's not about the amounts, but also when can they get them. They couldn't get one at the end. So when he says his little wish for a reasonable amount of offense, that's an interesting insight into how he thinks and what he thinks about the team.
Okay. If you're going to be dead last in offense, where do you need to be in defense? And scoring defense. You
got to be up there, top 5.
Okay, so you're not saying 10th.
No.
So South Carolina is 10th, giving up 68.25 points per game. That actually puts them also dead last, again, by a large margin in terms of scoring difference, averaging 72 points per game, giving up 68 points per game. The next closest, Oklahoma, who they played this week, is giving up 10. We'll come back. We'll continue on with this. You're listening to the early game.
It's done with CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. Demolition that we did in the kitchen. What a mess, and what a not fun experience initially. But then when we got to CHW Cabinetry, they really made the process a whole bunch better than I thought it was going to be. We got the kitchen pulled together and got everything ordered. And then they gave us that photorealistic rendering of the kitchen. So it was like a picture of our kitchen all done that we could take to get everything else figured out. And when you have flooring and backsplash and countertops and all that to figure out, that was certainly a helpful tool. But they can help you be more functional, not on such a grand scale. If you need to have your pantry cabinets, maybe you want just some drawers put in there. You want things a little bit more organized in a bathroom. They can help you in a master closet. You get the drill. Just visit chw.com, chwcabinetry.com, or call them at 803-520-6837 and tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation. Kind of started off a little bit busy this morning. I-77 northbound, right there at the bridge over the Congaree River, mile marker 4 on I-77 northbound. The right lane is blocked due to an accident. Car versus deer incident in Faro at Hardscrabble, and also an accident. I-20 eastbound between Monticello Road and Fairfield Road. So a few areas of caution. 54 to the high today, overnight low of 30. 50 tomorrow, 57 on Thursday and 59 on Friday. So sunny days ahead, a little bit warmer. We'll welcome those. Just still kind of cool in the mornings. 30 currently on the early game.
.36 as we roll along here on your Tuesday morning. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen getting you up, getting going. Reminder, we will be out at Pro Swing this coming Friday, 4708 Forest Drive in Columbia. We'll hit some golf balls, get you ready. The PGA, which is a one morning in the near future when we move through some more stuff, Preston, we got to get back in a little bit of conversation of just where the PGA stands on your viewing items. It used to be, I used to love this time of the year with the PGA because Thursday afternoon about 4 o'clock, maybe you're getting off work, maybe you're trying to wrap up work about 4 o'clock, the PGA would come on, the PGA network channel, golf channel, and you're like, all right, golf for the weekend. Let me watch some John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, Roy McIlroy, even Tiger Woods. You're like, all right, it's a good start. It's a way to kind of kickstart the weekend. Yeah, I don't know if I feel the same anymore, Preston, and it's kind of sad. And I feel like golf is slipping further and further. The majors are still the majors, but the other tournaments like the American Express this weekend at La Quinta Country Club, it's slipping just further and further down my sports enjoyment list, if you will.
So that's not golf, that's PGA golf. Because obviously we know this TGL. We know We've seen the videos of Bryson DeChambeau trying to make a trick shot over his house for the last 1,000 days.
Yeah. And then, some other guy comes and does it in 5 shots?
Right. So there's all types of outlets for golf, but what you're saying is PGA golf.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right, because I did see, the trick golf shot the trick golf shot artist right now. They're kind of taking over. I think you mentioned you were kind of at the forefront of this a while back, I believe.
Listen, man, just got to keep up with the trends of what's happening, man.
So, yeah, but we'll be out at Pro Swing, 4708 Forest Drive in Columbia. And then, reminder, they've got their winter indoor golf tournament, the first annual Pro Swing Golf Classic coming. 2-day event, January 30th and 31st, $150 to register a 2-man team. Bookings are available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Food is included. You could win $1,000 for first place, $750 for second, $500 for third. Plus, we will be drawing Gamecock baseball tickets that someone could win just by registering. Call today and register. Call Pro Swing 803-528-1617. Let's stay on a little bit of basketball here and wrap this up because Thursday, after the game Wednesday, we'll get into our fart analytics here, Preston. But as you start to break down some of the numbers on this team, I just gave you the scoring differences here. South Carolina right now is dead last in scoring per game, 72.75 points per game. That is, not only is it last, it's 5 points lower than the next closest team, which was number 1, Tennessee. They are 10th in the league in scoring defense. So they are giving up 68.25 points per game, which again puts them 10th. But because of the scoring margin, the difference, they're dead last in that too. You want another stat that's not very aggressive? Fart analytics, free throws. Want to guess where South Carolina is in free throw percentage in the league?
Very low.
16th.
Yeah.
There's only 16 teams.
Yeah.
That's just starting with those analytics, Preston, and that right there kind of tells you why this team is 10-6. Let me give you one other. Field goal percentage, not part of our analytics, but field goal percentage, made percentage, 15th in the league. 3 percentage points behind the 14th best team, Mississippi. South Carolina shooting just 44.2% for the year right now. Texas A&M, the only team worse at 43.1%.
Yeah, so it's not a mystery. The statistics bear out why the team has struggled or why the team indicates those early struggles in those games in which they got beat up pretty bad. Moving forward, you want to see if those numbers start to trend upwards as the season continues.
Rebounding defense, something that South Carolina kind of prides itself on. Middle of the pack, tied with Florida for seventh in the league. So 7 and 8 right there, 33.3.8. Again, part of those analytics that we like. And rebounding, something that Lamont Paris prides itself on, rebounding in defense. You see that as an issue when you're 8th in the league.
They won the battle against Auburn in rebounding, right? But when you look at the totality of the season, this is something that they struggle with from game 1 all the way through. This is how we even came up with the FARD analytics, because he was talking about them getting beat on the things that they should not get beat on, especially against teams in which they were better, more athletically gifted than. And so you see when they win those battles against Auburn, when they do some of those things, they have a chance to compete. And so that's what he's been trying to tell them this whole time. That's why he talked about not making shots. It's not about making shots. It's about doing all of those intangible things that you can do. And hopefully, as his words said, hopefully you can have a reasonable day on offense along with all of those other things, which you can that doesn't take necessarily talent, more will, and you can get yourself to win some ball games.
Now, I don't know that we don't have this, and we're still kind of playing and toying with our FART analytics, trademark pending. But if you stay on the defensive side, which is Lamont Paris's calling card, I know in that clip we played in the last segment, he talked about hoping, saying a little wish for a reasonable offensive day. But defense is the calling card. Now, these are two analytics right here that I'm going to give you that maybe don't always speak to how good you are defensively, but it is a massive part. Blocked shots, steals. Before I read you where South Carolina is at, how would you integrate blocked shots and steals into maybe, say, our analytics?
Farts.
Not only that, he giggled. If you're not on the live stream, he giggled like a 9-year-old boy when he said it. He said it and then giggled. You had to be on the live stream. You had to go to the live stream
with that one. I think they indicate two different things. So even steals, as people have told me, are not indicative, does not necessarily mean you're playing great defense. It might mean you're taking more chances. It might mean you're trying to cut the ball off, et cetera, et cetera. And block shots also so I don't know how. I think Lamont's brand of defense may not require them to have as many steals or block shots as it is a total team defense away from the ball. He wants you to do the work away from the ball as opposed to the rim. That'd be my guess.
To me, the block shots is something that you and I have talked about now, starting last year and carried through 16 games. The athleticism of your team and your post players.
Right.
South Carolina's 15th in the league in blocked shots. And what that means, now this is the difference with, Frank Martin's teams, and I remember having a conversation with Frank, and what he liked was, and I've never had this conversation with Coach Paris, but I'd be interested to hear his opinion, because this is something he talked about yesterday. We talked about Saturday that we played yesterday, and about his team being aggressive, pressuring the ball early in the game, playing with that energy, because you might get beat, but you're creating havoc. You're swarming. You're creating havoc. You might get beat, but you've got guys at the rim that can then protect the rim. So instead of maybe having to ease back because you don't want to get beat, you're able to force the issue, which in turn causes more steals. But if you don't have somebody at the rim that can block shots, South Carolina's 15th in block shots, you're now more worried about getting beat off the dribble and not having that long guy or somebody at the rim that can protect it, that cleans up any messes. Also, steals, going back to creating havoc, Gamecocks 16th in the league, dead last. There's a lot of analytics here that show where South Carolina is 15th or 16th in the league in both offensive and defensive statistics.
So are they overperforming? Because those statistics would mean they would be, I guess you put 0-3, those SEC statistics, or for their year in total?
Year in total so far.
Gotcha.
We'll continue with this. We'll get into a little more and wrap up our number one as we return. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Now, if you look on our live stream, you can see me. I'm bundled up here in the studio, but I don't look like this when I'm at the house. No, sir, no way. You know why? Because AAA Heating and Air came out and put a brand new heating and air unit in my house about 2 years ago, and it is absolutely incredible. Just last night, I know it was chilly outside. I was walking around in a T-shirt and basketball pants because that heating and air unit that AAA Heating and Air installed works so well. It's kept us nice and cool during the summers. Right now, it's keeping us nice and warm at the Gunner household. And that's why I trust in and believe in AAA Heating and Air, because not only did they install an incredible unit, but the way they explained it, how it would save money with energy costs, the cleanup, just all the way around. AAA Heating and Air was absolutely professional, and the way they handled everything was absolutely top-notch. So give them a phone call, 803-677-1500. Again, that's 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Eight zero three 404-6100. How you can weigh in this morning if you want to do so as we get you up and get you going. Talking basketball.
Talking basketball, talking transfer portal. I got a question, Bill. It just came to me. Would you ever advise a college-aged person to move because of their significant other? To make a move, let's say if their person was 19 to 21 years old, would you ever advise that college-age person to make a move because of their significant other?
Absolutely not.
We got one absolutely not. Bill,
Yeah.
you would.
There's there's some caveats.
Okay.
If you're moving to Miami,
Okay.
a nice warm place,
Okay.
a lot of fun.
Okay.
The significant other is part of a plan that somehow you're going to make $4 million.
Okay.
Yes,
So you're for it.
all for it.
All right.
Make
All
your
for
move.
money has nothing to do with stability in a relationship or maturity or anything like that. It's just all about the money.
And warm weather. If I was encouraging them to go to Indiana,
I pray for your children.
Butler, where it's cold, and they're not making $4 million, I'd be like, do you really want to follow through on this plan? Mm-hmm. Is this really worth it?
Okay.
So on today's edition of Transfer Portal Tuesday, we have Carson Beck, who is making a move, a significant life change. He's going from the SEC to the ACC. He's going from Athens to Miami.
Culture shock there.
It's
Big time.
Not the same place. Not the same place. And yes, he is reportedly making a lot of money.
Key.
Reportedly making a lot of money. But, however you want to describe this, his current significant other is in Miami, who's also a major player in the NIL space for athletes. And so my question is this a good move for Carson Beck?
Yes.
Okay.
You have your whole life to be tied down to a relationship. Why don't you do your thing right now? You can date comfortably and all of that. You pursue your stuff. They pursue theirs. There's time for commitment. Like this stuff of everybody being locked in. I stroke out when I see that, college kids are getting dogs. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is your time to do your thing. Don't be tied down. There you go.
Preach.
Now, I'm speaking specifically to Carson Beck's situation.
Well, no, because you're just talking about you're money hungry and yeah.
Yeah, because he'll never make this kind of money again.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well,
Ever.
he can still
Ever.
do that. But if he's going there for him, yes. But if he's going there,
I guarantee you if she would, and no offense because they don't have a football program, if she was at Butler, he wouldn't be going. Or Indiana. Or Rutgers. Miami's part of this. And $4 million. Now, I don't like him. And I hope he fails, but has nothing to do.
go where the money is. Just the
have
girl
no
is
problem.
superfluous, in my opinion.
Look, she's there because of the money and because it's Miami. By the way, there's a great timeline, if I'd have known we were going to go down this path, on basically how Caitlin Clark destroying Haley Van Lith. Because, they were actually, I think, going to TCU. The Cavender twins were going or at TCU. There's a timeline that explains basically how, because of Caitlin Clark, Carson Beck is now at Miami playing football.
Well, yeah. I mean,
and it has to do with Caitlin Clark destroying Haley Van Lith at LSU, causing Haley Van Lith to transfer to TCU, causing, because she's better than the Cavender twins, them to stay at Miami. It was a whole...
So it's the 7 degrees of like Kevin Bacon kind of a thing.
This whole thing is actually Caitlin Clark's fault.
That's hysterical.
But this is the new era of college football. He probably would have gotten drafted, do you think? Drafted. Now, remember after last year, he was considered a first-round pick. And then we watched him this year with no Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey and limited running game. We went, oh, wait, you might not be that good. And he fell so far down the charts that it is more profitable for him to go to Miami, who needs a quarterback, than it is to go to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the crazy thing. And it just so happens, I think it's Haley, right?
I believe it's Haley.
I believe it's Haley, is the one he's dating, and she's there. So she, I'm sure, helped facilitate this lot. But let's be honest, he would have gone there for $4 million. Nobody else was going to offer him that.
So my bigger question is, how long was this conversation happening? Right? How long was this conversation happening? Was Haley being a proxy for conversations? Let your boy know we got a nice bag sitting, waiting for him, because we know that is a possibility. And third, maybe his Ferrari will be more appropriate in Miami than
It'll
it was
fit.
in Athens.
He won't stand out.
A Lamborghini. I'm sorry. It was a Lamborghini.
I do. Your question is a very legit. When did this happen in December?
I thought I'd read it really was pretty abbreviated negotiation time. I don't know.
I mean,
On the books.
yeah. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in if you want to. You're listening to the early game, hour 2 on the way.
Preston here for the good folks at Cato's Power Equipment. Do you need zero turns? Do you need power equipment? Are you ready to buy, rent, or repair power equipment? Well, Cato's Power Equipment is the place for you. Cato's has been helping and been family-owned since 1983, and they're proud to serve the Columbia community. Third-generation owner Ben Cato is raising the standards while keeping the mom-and-pop vibes that you're used to. So if you need to buy, rent, or repair, call Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711. That's 803-254-3711. You can get pre-approved in seconds, and you can have an instant decision when you're ready to purchase. Let Ben's Cato Power Equipment be your source for all things related in Columbia. That's Ben's Power Equipment and 803-254-3711.
Still working a couple tie-ups out there this morning, and we're looking at Faro near Hardscrabble, Car versus Deer getting cleaned up. Also an accident I-20 eastbound between Monticello Road and Fairfield Road. I-20 westbound at I-77, the right lane is blocked, so stay left. And let's see, I-20 westbound at Faro, an accident being cleaned up there. 378 between Mineral Springs and I-20, kind of there in front of JT's. There is a report of an accident there, slowing things down in Lexington. 54 for the high today, 50 tomorrow, 57 on Thursday. Sunny skies pretty much all week. And our lows for the next couple days in like the overnight lows around anywhere between like 27 and 30. But it is 30 currently on the early game.
7 a.m. as we get you up on a Tuesday morning, January the 14th, or the day before. Preston Thorne, I think, has a very interesting take on tomorrow, January 15th. Not for everybody. Not everybody gets paid on the 15th, but the most anticipated payday of the year, coming off of Christmas, really coming off of all the holidays, Thanksgiving, where you got to spend money probably on a turkey, extra money on food for the family, for the big family lunch and dinner. You got to spend money over Christmas, the big luncheon. Maybe there was a vacation locked in there. Maybe you visited the bowl game. And now you're just waiting patiently on that 15th check to get caught up on some things.
Yeah, and if you're really fancy, you might have a direct deposit. It might have hit early today. Today might actually be your day if you're really into the technology, as the kids is calling it these days. So, yeah, I think that's the one I'm going to stand on. The 15th check is probably the most anticipated check of the year because everybody's finances get wacky in the holiday season. So you just to square yourself back up.
It's an interesting hot take we might revisit because, yes, that the 15th or whatever right in this area might be your most anticipated paycheck of the year. Like, all right, we got to get that in so we can get some groceries back in this house that aren't Christmas, whatever Christmas leftovers or Christmas candy. So we'll do that. 803-404-6100. Joined on a Tuesday morning, as always, by J.C. Sherbert. And J.C., welcome in. Fresh off of the holidays. Hopefully things are a little bit back to normal now as we remove ourselves from bowls and transfer portals and all the good things. But hopefully things are going well for you.
Yeah, doing well. I'm busy. A lot of different, January's a time that we sort of launched some new projects with some of the stuff I'm involved in. So it's been a busy month so far, but certainly has been a productive one.
Well, it used to be this time of year was gearing up for big recruiting weekends and trying to lock up the last of your senior class. Now it has turned more into transfer portal season. And let's get into that a little bit with you and start with the news last night. The Gamecocks land Brandon Cisse, a 6-foot, 190-pound defensive back, transfers from North Carolina State. And Preston and I were kind of talking about this, JC, because it's really interesting, and it's part of the new line of college football. And Preston, I'll let you tell the story again here before JC gives his take. You were going, I believe, into your junior year. I think I've heard enough of this. You were kind of slated to be a starter. You were ready. And then you glance at some recruiting news, and, oh, wait, they're bringing in the number one junior college defensive tackle in the country, some guy named Sean Smith. And you're like, hey, wait, what? Guys, I've been here. I've been part of the program.
Yeah, All-American, 50 sacks, whatever. He's from Butler Community College, and then he's 6'5", and he played running back out there too. It's like, oh man, okay, this is going to be a tough situation. So you always know that the coaches are trying to out-recruit the room. That's a given. You understand that, but when you go through the spring and you sort of pencil yourself in, this is not nothing the coaches. It's not as if the coaches have lied to you or misled you, but you just got a running tally in your mind, like, okay, my time is up now. And then you see them bringing in more talent. You just know that you're going to have to compete for those opportunities. Like I said, now fortunately, Sean and I were really good friends, and everything worked out. But there are opportunities. You have to make those rooms work. And I will also say this: DBs are pretty volatile.
They're the pretty boys of the defense, huh?
Volatile.
Pretty boy. But, JC, this is a big pick. This is it gives depth. You're going to have competition now, which, Preston, I would assume when Sean Smith came in, it did cause you to maybe spend a little extra time in the weight room? No? Okay. No. Not at all. All right. Okay. So,
that wasn't going to be my win.
It was.
Nah.
But JC, this is a big pickup for South Carolina last night in a position that probably, as I said in the opening hour, is the strength of the team.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's too good not to take. And one thing folks are missing on this, he also played nickel at NC State. South Carolina has a nickel position in its defense. They put 5 defensive backs on the field at the time. So, your numbers sometimes are going to be deeper at D-back than they are at linebacker because you only play 2 for now. And I think that it's intriguing in the sense that you look at where the hole is in the secondary for 2025, and it's back there where Nick Emanware used to be. And everything else, I mean, you've got people that have played and people that are relatively talented and all that good stuff. So the question becomes, if Cisse can be your corner your nickel, do you slide Kilgore back? What do you do with Jalewis Solomon? And the corner situation, guys, after they got Miles Norwood, is good. But honestly, if you kind of think about it, you're an injury away from only having two. And we found that out a couple of years ago in 2023 when most of the defensive starters were playing every single snap. And they had a nice three-man rotation this year at corner with Swain going in and all that. But, so I don't know that you need six. But I think this is a good pickup. Plus, he's from Sumter. He's too good not to take, in my opinion. He's a taller corner, taller DB. He's physical. Played a bunch of special teams as a true freshman that started at NC State this past year. He's got 2 more years left. I think competition's always good, but I say that also saying I don't know that they're necessarily stacking the deck here because of the number of defensive backs they play down to down within Clayton White's scheme.
Well, I think the other guy in this that's very interesting is Jalewis Solomon. And I'll even throw, even though he's not a nickel, I don't think he could be a nickel, is Peyton Williams. Because to me, what you've done here is you got a young guy in Jalewis Solomon, who they were very high on, thought that maybe he could have played this year if he'd enrolled earlier. You've got Peyton Williams, has been wildly successful when he's had snaps. He was successful 2 years ago as a freshman. He stepped in, I believe it was the Missouri game this year when DQ Smith magically got hurt prior to the game. Peyton Williams has been very good. And then now this gives you flexibility, JC, with what you want to do with Jalen Kilgore.
Yeah, I agree. And here's the thing, too. Back there, some guys were not mentioned at safety. Zabari Sandy's a good player, and he's still there. We forget about him because he was a way, way, way early commit in, 2023 class. Played a little bit, special teams. Then he got hurt. So you never know what you're going to get with him, and I do think he has talent. Like I said, he's still around. And David Bucci played a lot as a true freshman at safety. He'll take a step forward. And then Kelvin Hunter was playing. He played against LSU, made a good tackle. He's more of a nickel and an in-the-box kind of guy at safety, but he'll hit you. He'll light you up. And he had a big play against LSU, and then injuries sort of sidelined him or whatever. And Kilgore just didn't come off the field. He was playing at such a high level, too. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens. I think that if you look at what happened to the 2023 defense, figuring out that nickel spot's important because they sort of struggled at that spot until they landed on, okay, it's Kilgore. And then at the end, doing that and going to the three-man front really reversed the fortunes of that defense and set the table for this year. So I think that's going to be an interesting spot to watch in terms of, like, who is playing where. It always is, and I'll say this, Clayton White's going into his 5th year here. I can never figure it out. So don't listen to me. If I say I think this guy's this guy's that, don't listen to me because I'm never right. He always surprises me. But, the good news is Torian Gray and Clayton, they know what they're doing in the secondary. And this guy adds just another piece to what is a pretty deep group. And I say it with the admission that, just about every team in the country would miss Nick Emanwore from a talent standpoint, what he does, both run game and pass game wise.
No, I'm with you on that. And Preston, Nick Emanwore has been a difference maker back there. But I think if you got one position that you can find some pieces to make up for it, it might be that one. And it is. I forgot about Kelvin Hunter. That's another good one. And that'll be maybe the good storyline of spring from the standpoint of, like, how does this play out? You've got to have a lot of competition back there, both at the safety spots, depending on what you want to do with Jalen Kilgore, and then both at the nickel and the defensive back spot. So to me, this is the part of the transfer portal where you can really upgrade your team in a hurry, and they've added depth, Preston.
Yeah, they've added depth at that specific position, so they have more players. My question is, they had to add more depth along the defense. JC, have they done anything else on the defense to add depth in those positions?
Yeah, they actually have over the weekend, kind of, sort of, Friday-ish on. I'll add one more thing on the secondary real quick. I don't know that Judge Collier couldn't be a nickel either. So, like I said, I just said don't listen to me, but his skill set and the way he plays the run and he can cover and he's big, That's not something I can completely rule out either. But anyway, no, at the end of last week, they got some good news. Justin Okoronkwo, and I did look it up phonetically and learn how to pronounce it because I knew I'd be asked about it. This guy's a freak. He's from Munich, Germany. So I'm thinking, guys, this is the first international player football's had since the Sorensen and Pavlovich and Gurinder Thind era.
Yeah.
Well, those guys are all three are legends. I mean, Justin Sorensen in and of himself is a legend. Gurinder Thind will never not be a legend. And then Pavlovich was the guy Spurrier was like, well, we're going to let him rest this week because he had a bad game. The Canadian border, I guess one of the guys was like, man, we need to shut the border down, or something like that when the Spurrier staff got there. But those guys played some good football. But I think that's the first international guy since then. So this is this guy, 6'3", 230, runs 4.5, brawl jumps 10.2, has a 4-second short shuttle, which I look at for linebackers, it's lateral movement, and brawl jump for explosiveness. Was playing at Alabama, was supposed to start. What happened was they had some guys that were supposed to leave that were ruled eligible for a waiver, and then some guys get in the portal and then come back. And so he wasn't, so he got in the transfer portal. Nick Saban actually recruited him and signed him. He played for Kalen DeBoer this year as a true freshman. Carolina loved him out of high school, too. I mean, he's a guy, and I'm not saying he's going to start this year or anything because he's a developmental guy being an international player, but he's pretty far along and is the big linebacker that Clayton White likes, but he can run and move, and he's physical. He grew up, he was a gymnast and a soccer player. So what kind of footwork and flexibility does this dude have? So that was a big one. And then they added some defensive line help. A guy that I kind of, I haven't seen his game film, so I don't know what he's going to do when he is trying to hold off a double team of two 330-pounders. But Devontae Miles from Bowling Green, defensive tackle, 6'4", 280, basketball player out of high school, kind of like T.J. Sanders. Real light feet.
Oh, he's not playing. He's not playing the double team.
Yeah, I mean,
he has no interest in that.
That's what he's got to. He's gonna have to do it,
Yeah.
But he's a more athletic guy. I think he can get in the rotation. One thing I know, Travian Robertson, kind of like Brad Lawing before him, he's really good at coaching guys up that are athletic and getting the most out of them. You saw it with TJ, saw it with Tonka, you saw it with some of the guys. So I like the depth piece, and who knows, he may start. He's from Michigan. That's a state that sneakily puts out good defensive linemen. That big kid from Kentucky this past year was from Michigan. So a nice off-the-radar pickup to add depth to that spot. I'm not so sure they're not they may be done at D-tackle, but if they have an opportunity in the next period, I'm sure that they'll explore it there. So two good defensive pickups, and then the third that happened about 9:40 Eastern last night.
We'll get back into a little bit of that with the linebacker and the defensive tackle because I think, especially with Preston, the part about that with the defensive tackle is really interesting in terms of depth. And I'll throw something at Preston and you both with that when we come back. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, J.C. Sherbert in with us as always on a Tuesday. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Old Tommy Meat Market. That's right, Tuesday, and we're trying to figure out what to do for dinner tonight. Lauren and I have actually been texting during the show, and right now we've narrowed it down to salmon or tuna. Salmon or tuna. Well, guess what? I can find incredible cuts of both at Old Timey Meat Market. Not only do they have some of the absolute best cuts of beef, pork, poultry, but you can find incredible fish like tuna steaks or a great cut of salmon, and that's what we are texting about right now. That's why I'll be at the Lexington store later on, but maybe you want to visit the St. Andrews Road store in Irmo or the South Congaree store, because at Old Timey Meat Market, they pride themselves on being a non-traditional meat buying experience. That's right. They want to know your name, know your family. They want to help you pick the right cuts of meat, and you're going to get it for the absolute best prices. So whatever you're looking for, beef, pork, poultry, or again, you might be like us looking for seafood tonight, stop by Old Timey Meat Market today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
A few accidents have been cleared, but a couple more just to keep you aware of. 378 between Mineral Springs Road and I-20. Also, I-20 westbound at Faro Road. And I-20 westbound at I-77. Going to need to stay left. Right lane is blocked at this time. Not too bad weather-wise, a little bit warmer than it was last week. 54 today, 50 tomorrow, 57 on Thursday, getting close to 60 on Friday. Those overnight lows staying around 30 degrees for the next few days, or next few mornings, that is. Like right now, where we're sitting at 30 on the early game.
Reminder, busy week here for us at 107.5 The Game. Coming up tomorrow, 6 o'clock basketball against Vanderbilt. You can hear it right here at 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. We'll have the pregame for you at 5:30. Coming up on Thursday, we will have Carolina Calls at 6 o'clock right here, 107.5 The Game in Columbia, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. That'll be Carolina Calls with Lamont Paris to recap the Vanderbilt game and look ahead to the Oklahoma game. And on Thursday evening on 98.5 WOMG, we will have the women's game, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip-off. They travel to Alabama. So that is our basketball lineup for the week. 803-404-6100. We will get into some basketball discussion with J.C. Sherbert. Let's go back to a little bit of this discussion here on the transfer portal. I got a question in on our, where did I get this? I believe on our text thread. Corder asks, what have we done on the offensive line? SEC is one in the trenches. And JC and Preston, this is another position where I feel like South Carolina has really good young talent with Josiah Thompson and Tree Babalade. I thought Cason Henry improved as the season went on. We've seen Trovon Ball. Marquis Anderson is supposed to be a guy that maybe coming into his third year, it's time for him to step up. Jatavius Shivers played a good bit last year. You got the young guys in Blake Franks, Cam Pringle as well, but you brought in 3 transfers. And so depth is there, Preston, and Corder says the SEC is one of the trenches. Your thoughts, Preston, on the offensive line and providing that kind of depth and bodies for Lonnie Teasley, Sean Elliott, and Greg Atkins?
Well, we'll see what the new guys bring in. We'll see what the new guys. I believe they got the center guard from Wake Forest. They got my guy Boaz with the coolest name. They brought in some dudes to try and shore up what they already have. Now, what will those dudes provide? Do they provide leadership qualities? Will they provide an understanding of the playbook? Are they just going to be bigger, stronger physical specimens because they've been in college football for longer? I don't know how that works out. Last year, it seemed to work out with them bringing in older guys, with Torricelli Simpkins being a major contributor, maybe the leader of the offensive line along with Rashawn Lee. So you have to build it through having a combination of players, recruiting, old guys, transfer portal, all of that seems to work together.
JC, your thoughts on what they've done with the offensive line and the competition, which I think is a big thing now. South Carolina's trying to take that next step, but being able to create that competition we talked about in the secondary, but also now the offensive line to step up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that all 3 of these guys are going to start. I like Boaz, and I love that name too. I like Boaz Stanley the best out of all of them to start, but Newsom's a big athletic guy. You know, Nick Sharp is huge, 330. He's played a ton of football. With a 330-pound guy, you always worry about stamina. The dude played like 700 snaps this year at Wake Forest, so he's good. I mean, he's not going to win Mr. Olympia or anything, but he's that guy that you look at. Preston faced these guys, you know, and they got the big stomach, and they're just mean as hell and just come after you, and that's him. But, you know, you still do have Trovon Ball and Marquis Anderson. Where is Big Tree going to play? I thought, you know, it was kind of smart to redshirt Big Tree this year if you could, and they did. But when he had to play at left tackle, he played really good. You know, the thought is they'll slide him inside. And I think he's going to be good inside. But then who are your backups at tackle if Josiah Thompson gets hurt again? Or Cason Henry. Over on the right side, I think we got a pretty good idea about Jatavius on that side. Is Cam Pringle going to be able to be the backup to Thompson next year, Blake Franks? And the other reason, just a very granular reason I think they went after multiple offensive linemen again, is when you look at the numbers, they've only signed 5 out of the high school ranks over a period of 2 cycles. And now those are good players. The kid they flipped from Georgia Tech and then Surratt from Gaffney are big. I mean, those guys have bright futures. I mean, Surratt from Gaffney is athletic enough to play on defense. And then the guy they flipped from Georgia Tech is, he's a franchise-type tackle in time, but there's a key word in time. So they were sitting at about 11 or 12, and then Aaron Parks, of course, left through the transfer portal. You want 15. You know, so just from a number standpoint, I think this is a smart move. And Shane Beamer talks about competition all the time, and that's the cornerstone of the program. So they're going to battle it out. I would personally be a bit disappointed if all three portal guys started. That's just me and it's only because I have a lot of faith in the talent that the younger guys have, like Trevon Ball and Tree and Marquis and those guys. So we'll see what happens, but it's another situation where on paper it sets up pretty nice, but as we've seen through the years, on paper is one thing and performance is another. I think it's a big off season for this unit to at least get to average and serviceable consistently. There were games they were really good, games they weren't, so they need to be more consistent. But I said the same thing about the D-line last year, and it turned out well. So we'll see what happens.
Preston, real quick, more impressive or more football-y, the big offensive lineman with the belly hanging out or the big defensive lineman, belly showing, jersey up?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. One of the O-linemen, like the guy with the belly on the O-line tends to be pretty mean. They like to do this thing called fat bath where they lay on you and they like to rub their little stomachs on you. That's never a good thing. You don't want that from those guys. But the D-line guy with the stomach, he tends to be more of the guy that takes on the double team. So those are the dudes that battle each other. Unlike the D lineman, newsflash, anytime you have a D lineman whose first scouting report is basketball player, he wants no parts of double teams.
TJ Sanders wants no parts of the double teams. However, I'm going to use my speed and quickness and my feet to get around double teams and make plays. So you want those fast twitch guys. Let's come back. We'll take a quick break. Come back. I want to get to the defensive line on a few things with Preston and JC about depth and kind of like Preston used to talk about with wide receivers, having several different ingredients. The big guys on the interior and kind of those guys like a TJ Sanders and how you can mix and match those guys and maybe what South Carolina's done here in the transfer portal and in recruiting with Xavion Hardy, some stuff like that. We'll get to that, discuss a little bit of defensive alignment, talk a little football here on a Tuesday morning. Also, we'll get back into basketball as well. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, and joined as always on a Tuesday morning by J.C. Sherbert. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Zero Risk Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. You have wrapped up the new year. The house is clean. The Christmas decorations are put up. But have you taken care of those carpets, the rugs, the tile, the upholstery? Have you made sure everything is nice and clean except for the carpets? Well, if so, it's time to call Zero Res because no one can clean like Zero Res because Zero Res uses their patented ZR water technology with electrolyzed water, no soap, no residue, and no harsh chemicals. You heard that right. Right now, get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119 when you mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game. You'll also get a hallway cleaned for free. Just give them a phone call, 803-262-4020, or you can book online, ZeroResColumbia.com. Again, mention me, Bill Gunner at 107.5 The Game, and get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119 plus a free hallway. Zero Res, spell it backwards or forwards, is the right way to clean.
Still going to need to stay left on I-20 westbound there at I-77 due to the right lane being blocked. Highway 1 near I-26, an accident there. Also, I-20 westbound at Faro Road, also a slowdown, as well as 378 between Mineral Springs and I-20 have a report of an accident. 54 for the high today, 50 tomorrow. Then we're in the upper 50s for the remainder of the week. Overnight lows 30, 27, 31, kind of in that range until we get to Friday. So still chilly in the morning, but a little more moderate going through the daytime hours this week. So we welcome that. And it's about a little chilly right now. It's 30 on 107.5 The Game.
$7:34 here as we roll along on your Tuesday morning. Got into a bit of a transfer portal football discussion, some of it based on the commitment last night of Brandon Cisse, the defensive back from North Carolina State. Normally probably wouldn't bring it up, but I think it becomes interesting because South Carolina really liked their defensive back room. You know, you've got some guys, as we've kind of discussed, that are up-and-comers. Judge Collier, Vakari Swain. You have Jalewis Solomon. Jalen Kilgore could play multiple positions. DQ Smith is back. Peyton Williams has performed when his number's been called. You've got young players like Kelvin Hunter that performed very well. You brought in another transfer in Miles Norwood. That's a deep room. And it creates competition, Preston and JC. And I think that's part of the discussion this morning is what Shane Beamer seems to be doing in his staff, creating competition amongst position groups to get the best out of their players to take the next step starting this spring, Preston.
So it's interesting because I think with the recruiting, we get familiar with these names. And much like JC said, there's 12 offensive linemen that you can have. You want to have 15 guys probably going into the spring. But after the spring, I'm here to find out how many of those guys are actually competing. Yes, you have 15, or yes, you have 12, or however many DBs you have, but how many of those guys are actually competing for spots? And I guess we'll find that out after the spring. But I don't know if, for me, if filling a room with people actually means that it's a deep room. I think that means that for the DBs, maybe to an extent for the O-line, but you have to see who's actually competing for positions.
The defensive tackle position, defensive tackle specifically, not the end position, I think is really interesting because, Preston, you can speak to this, and JC, we heard this from Will Muschamp, too, back in his day, talking about the battery life of a defensive tackle. That thing is hard to charge back up. And one thing that Travian Robertson, Clayton White did so well this year was basically have a 3 deep. And, Preston, you talked about it earlier in the season. Just because you got 6 guys doesn't mean you play all 6 guys. You rotate them to fill snaps. DeAndre Jules played a great part this year of getting 20 snaps per game. Monkel Goodwine, who's back, played a big part of getting snaps to help offset guys, to help offset the 3 big names, Hundley, Hemingway, and then TJ Sanders. And so I'm asking you guys, because here's the other part to this. When we look at this defensive line right now, I feel like Devontae Miles, and JC, I'll start with you, was brought in as a key depth piece. You're not asking him to play 35 or 40 snaps a game. Maybe he's only giving you 12 to 18, but you've got him. You've got Xavier Hardy. You've got Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy. You got Nick Barrett is back. You've also got Monkel Goodwine in there as well. I don't know if I'm leaving anybody out. Christian Ingram's coming in later. But that's right now a 5-man, older man rotation, JC.
Dude, because he was part of the rotation down the stretch. Walk-on guy, probably be on scholarship.
Oh, hold on. You're talking about you were talking about Porter, Rontavious?
Yeah, Rondarius Porter. And he looked good. I mean, he's mean. He's about 280 right now. Probably could get him to 290 to get him more snaps if you needed to. And he's a lot like Jabari Ellis. You know, kind of reminds me of that big aggressive guy that's kind of undersized that can get in there and give you snaps. And before everybody freaks out, because I know everybody's like, 107.5, they said we're going to have to play walk-ons on D-line. I'm not saying that. I'm talking 5 to 10 snaps a game. And it's exactly as you said it. Will Muschamp mentioned it. Brad Lawing did it. Travian Robertson does it. Everybody in the country believes wholeheartedly you have to, and it's weird because you don't ever rotate on the offensive line hardly. But on defense, you can, if you can roll 6 like the Gamecocks did at times, 5 or 6 last year or this 2024, you're fresh in the fourth quarter. We remember the Spurrier era well, and like how the Gamecocks defense got to the fourth quarter, guys like Clowney and Ingram and the inside guys would just wreak havoc on other teams' offensive lines, especially Clemson. Well, in those Clemson games, or what stands out, it's because they were not only talented, they were fresh. And you want your frontline guys in there and fresh at the end because, as Muschamp said, their battery goes out. It's hard to get them restarted because they're so big and athletic and are going a million miles an hour. It's hard to rush the passer and play that spot. So, you're right. You look, Monkel Goodwine, Nick Barrett, those are your 2 returning veterans. And then behind those guys, you got Gabriel Brownlow-Denby coming in from the portal, and then Xavion Hardy from JUCO. Some JUCOs take a while, some don't. What you kind of hope is Hardy doesn't. I've heard really good feedback on him so far during the short time he's been there, so he could be a potential starter and beat one of those other guys out. And then, you mentioned Christian Ingram coming in later, but Caleb Williams out of Virginia, 4-star guy, big body, big athletic guy. He's already in. I mentioned Porter, and then, they got Devontae Miles. So that's that depth is looking good, as far as being able to rotate. What you got to have happen, and Travian Robertson's good at this, all these guys have to get better between now and the start of the season. And that's kind of a Captain Obvious thing. All players need to do that. Preston get a test to it. But, you got to get Monkel Goodwine and Nick Barrett from, like, part of the rotation to starters. Or Brownlow-Denby and Xavion Hardy. Hardy's never played Power 4 football. Brownlow-Denby didn't get very many snaps at A&M. You got to get those guys ready to go, or whoever wins, and then set up your rotation like that. But, look, Travian knows what he's doing. He's an excellent defensive line coach, especially tackle where he played in college for most of the time and in the NFL. And you got Sterling Lucas managing the edge position. The Gamecocks are in good shape. I think it's scary when you lose the kind of depth and talent that the Gamecocks did because you have those veterans that have been there for a while. And then a guy like Jules, who, gosh, it'd have been great if he maybe gotten hurt a little earlier and they could have redshirted him because he's really good too. You look at that and you go, my goodness. And D-tackle certainly is very, very important. But I think slowly but surely on paper, the Gamecocks are setting themselves up to they can rotate and all that. I mentioned earlier about players not coming off the field. The D-line in 2023, Boogie, Tonka, Sanders, they rarely rotated those guys either. So there's another example of where the depth that season sort of made that unit not so great.
Preston, you talked about a wide receiver, but I want to give you the 6 guys specifically we've talked about, not counting Caleb Williams because I'm going off of some high school notes on him. You've got 3 guys who are basically what I'd say the rushers of the defensive tackles. Xavier Hardy shows up listed according to Ray, 6'5", 280 pounds. Devontae Miles, 6'5", 275. Porter, as you just heard JC say, is listed closer to 280 pounds. So you got what I'd say is your light, athletic, tap dancing guys that can run through. But then on the flip side of that, Brownlow-Denby is listed at 6'3", 310. Nick Barrett, 6'2", 309, and Monkel Goodwine, 6'3", 311. It feels like you have a nice mix of the heavier guys with the bellies and the kind of flat-bellied guys who maybe are a little bit more of your into kind of like the TJ Sanders.
Yeah, and I think that's what you need to have. You can't have the same things because they have different responsibilities within the defense, and you saw that played out with this past defensive line. You had Tonka and TJ who get upfield, rush the passer, are dynamic, and then you had Boogie and DeAndre who are more of the guys that were playing the one technique, playing your double teams, setting the anchor for those defenses. And so you want to have guys that can do both things, but more importantly than being able to is willing to do those things. And so when you have guys who are accepting their role, because it's not very glamorous taking on double teams all day, When you have those guys that are willing to accept their role to get playing on the field, that's how you have a great or solid defensive line.
And that's 6 guys right there. They will be on campus. They are here. They will be on campus for spring ball. JC, real quick, you got an idea of what Caleb Williams is showing up listed at? I know on the recruiting 24/7 recruiting site, he's 6'5 and a half, 250. If it's 250, they got to get him over there that nutrition program and bulk him up at least to 280, 290. But you want to ballpark what that is?
Yeah, let me just look real quick and see, because it's on the it's in the recruiting class that they officially announced, his most recent one.
Okay.
If that's 250, it's 250. They've not added him to the roster, I don't think yet, and that's fine. I mean, they normally don't, but I think he'll get up because he's early, and he's way early. He went through bowl practice. There's a chance he could get up to a reasonable weight by the time. I don't think he's 250 anymore, though, Bill. I think he's probably 270 or so.
That'd be important.
But there's always a transformation because you get to college, sometimes they're 270 and you got to get 20 off of them and then put 20 back on of muscle. But that happens very quickly as fans and analysts and talk show hosts and all that. We don't even notice that. That happens in the winter sometimes and in the summer. So, Caleb Williams, Christian, are they going to play this year? I don't know. It'll be a good thing if they did, as long as there's not an injury situation that forces them to play. I think they're both high upside guys that have bright futures, and the sooner the better if they can get in on that at that spot.
We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2 with the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. We're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mid-State Roofing is thinking about your roof. And let's be honest, spring's just around the corner. You're going to have some of those spring rains, those winds that kind of whip through. And if you haven't paid attention to your roof just yet, maybe you should take a look today. Whether it is your business or whether you're home, Mid-State Roofing is there. And they think about it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can give them a phone call right now at 7:45 a.m. You'll speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee who's ready to help you with a maintenance contract. You know what they say? If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. Well, that means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are ready to help you. And it doesn't matter if it's here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta. Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you. Call them today, 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Visit them on the web, Mid-State Roofing, for more information. Give them a phone call. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. Have you received one of the mean, nasty notices from the IRS? Is it stressing you out? Is it keeping you up at night? bothering you? If so, it's time to call John Ecton and his team. They're ready to help you. They are professionals. They've helped thousands of families, just like yours, navigate the IRS maze. That's right. You don't want to do this alone. You never know what the IRS can throw at you, and if you're not in touch with John Ecton and his team, you could be in some deep trouble. So call today and line up a free consultation. 803-771-9800. Whether it's your business or your personal taxes, John Ecton and his team is ready to help you. And again, it starts with a free consultation. That phone number, 803-771-9800. Whether you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta, Greenville, Spartanburg, wherever you're at in this great state, John Ecton and his team have a local team with dedicated solutions to help solve your tax issues. Call today, 803-771-9800. Wrapping up hour number 2 on a Tuesday morning with the BigSpur.com's J.C. Sherbert, where he is giving us I think we've had a good discussion right now on the transfer portal and what South Carolina has done. There is an element that I think Shane Beamer, even in the 5-7 season, an element that Shane Beamer's done a good job of, guys, of bringing in players that fit the locker room culture and fit what he wants. You're not going to hit on everyone. I know. Look, Antoine Wells fit for a year. Then he didn't fit. Bengali Kamara, I'm not real sure exactly what happened there. But by and large, Preston, and you know this from talking about just going back to the junior college days, bringing in guys that can fit into your team culture pretty quickly without a lot of acclimation period, if you will.
Yeah, that's a huge factor, because you bring in these guys, they have to fit into what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go. And I think that's more of a skill that we should value in coaches, maybe more so now than any other time, because they have to do it so quickly. You don't have time to let a guy get used to your roster and have him he has to fit now, or you have to move on. So I think that is something that you should really value in coaches that are able to do that.
JC, your thoughts on fitting culture in with your transfer portal guys?
It's the hardest thing you can do now, because as we saw at Florida State and elsewhere, Southern Cal, it can blow up in your face no matter how good it looks on paper, as far as the transfer portal goes. And sometimes it works for you. Like Colorado, didn't work one year, but worked the next. So it goes in all sports randomly. And South Carolina's been very fortunate that they haven't really had a bad group. They missed on some guys for 2020, heading into 2023, but that was more of a money thing. So I think it's very important. If you're going to turn over your roster like a lot of schools do, you cannot afford, at South Carolina especially, to not have guys that fit the culture. The culture is the reason this team, with 30-something new players in their first year with the program, started 3-3 overall, 1-3 in the SEC, with 2 gut-wrenching losses and a near loss to Old Dominion, and said enough's enough, and they were one of the best teams in college football by the time the regular season ended. If you get a bunch of mercenaries or guys that just want to get paid, or that are there just for the money, or that don't care about the team and it's just about them, you're going to ruin that culture. And if you do face adversity, because football, you're always going to face adversity. Everybody does. It's how you overcome it. Look at Ohio State. That's a lot of adversity they faced when they lost to Michigan. Well, they turned it around. So it's not that you face it or have a bad game, and people don't understand that. It's how do you respond, and that's how you get to greatness in the sport. And so the ability to respond is more critical than anything else. And if you have guys in your program that aren't going to respond in a positive way, you don't need to take them. I don't care how talented they are. And because believe me, the guys everybody says, "Oh, this is a great portal pickup. Oh my God." We're in 4 years of this now, and it's not always the case. So, and there are plenty of players out there in this sport. So I applaud Shane Beamer for doing it, and that's the one thing I hope they continue, because that's kind of the secret sauce for this entire program. Everybody started trashing things like culture and stuff like that, and when the losing was happening, but it's now more important than ever. You can move that puppy to the top of the list just because of the transient nature. And another thing I'll point out, players don't stay either. I mean, look at how many players they retained this year off the roster. They don't stay if the culture's bad. You got a bunch of mercenaries. Oh, we went 9-4 last year. Oh, wow, we lost the bowl game. I think I'll go over to Ole Miss or someplace. You didn't have any guys like that this year. And so I think that's the secret sauce in this new world we're in. And Shane Beamer is a master of that part of coaching. I mean, a master. So Gamecocks are in good hands.
JC, about 35 seconds left with you, about maybe a minute. You go, you'll hear the music. But thoughts real quick on the basketball program and what this week means.
Encouraged by the performance and the style of play. I think that's kind of how they play to win games, kind of like they played last year. Vanderbilt, Oklahoma are better matchups than obviously Auburn, Alabama, Mississippi State. And this is an opportunity, but I'll caution this, that they're not going on the road and playing two scrub teams. And these teams are still good and perfectly capable of beating the Gamecocks. In fact, they'll be favored. But this is an opportunity. I think if you can at least split and get that first win, get some confidence back. I did think Saturday went a long way towards showing some progress, though, and I don't care if Janai Broome got hurt. That Auburn team is still a Elite Eight, Final Four type team even without him. They're really, really, really good.
Always appreciate it. A lot of great insight on the transfer portal today. Look forward to catching up with you next week, buddy. You have a great rest of the day.
Hey, you guys too. Enjoy your tuna or salmon tonight, Bill. See you.
Definitely. JC Sherbert, thebigspur.com. We'll come back, get into a little NFL, and see if we can encourage Preston through his Vikings loss. It's the early game.
Are you heading into the new year with the same old joint pain? Pain in your knees, pain in your hips, pain in your back, maybe your shoulders? Make the decision now to say, I'm not going to do it. I'm going into the new year with help from QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine and joint preservation. You can revitalize your joints with advanced orthobiologic treatments at QC Kinetics. That means no steroids, no drugs, and no surgery. This is the future of medicine, and they use natural solutions like PRP to attack the pain from arthritis. So if you want to learn more about how you can refresh your joints and get lasting relief with amazing treatments, call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. Deal with joint pain now so you can make the most of the year. Call QC Kinetics at 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860.
Let's see, Highway 378. Sorry about that. Highway 378 between Mineral Springs and I-20. Going to need to stay left as the right lane is blocked as they work to get that earlier tie-up cleared up. Beatty Road near Broad River Road, an accident. Highway 1 near I-26. Also, I-20 westbound at I-77. I-20 westbound at Faro Road. And looks like other accidents have been cleared. So good news there. Love when things pop up and things getting better. 54 today, 50 tomorrow, 57 on Thursday. We'll keep those overnight lows around 30 degrees. Right now, sitting at 29 on 107.5 The Game.
$8 a.m., get up, get going, get the kids to school. It's a Tuesday, January the 14th. Is Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, Bill Gunn. We guide you through the morning here, getting you rolling along and into the middle portion of January. Just think, before long, just 31 long days away. It'll be baseball season. Spring will be here, and we'll start turning the corner towards those hot summer days. But right now, full-on NFL playoffs, college basketball season tonight. If you want to get into some basketball, Preston Thorne, we talked a little bit about it. The SEC, 9 top 25 teams, 5 top 8 teams. If you want a little basketball to watch tonight, you want something to do while you cook or try and get through your Tuesday night, how about 3 top 21 games between the SEC? 3 games featuring ranked versus ranked opponents tonight. They'll get going Mississippi State at Auburn. No Johnny Broom for Auburn, but the number 1 ranked Tigers taking on Mississippi State.
Johnny Broom, tough hairline.
Yeah.
He has a tough hair, unfortunately.
Would have been insulted by James Franklin.
Yeah, he's on the James Franklin conversation. Johnny Broom's. I've noticed that he's a baller, but we're going to have to figure out a plan for that eventually.
2 coaches in the second game. All these at 7 o'clock, by the way. 2 coaches in the second game considered maybe a little slimy, a little dirty, a little questionable. Chris Beard with Mississippi. Nate Oates with Alabama.
Yeah, these are 2 different things, though. Chris Beard has some off-the-court issues. Nate Oates is on the court. I'll take Nate Oates' issues above Chris Beard's.
So you got Mississippi State and Auburn, Ole Miss and Alabama, and then the third one tonight, Texas A&M. They'll be without Wade Taylor IV, and they travel to Kentucky to take on number 8 Kentucky. Number 11 Texas A&M, number 8 Kentucky. So you got number 15 Mississippi State against number 1 Auburn, number 21 Mississippi against number 4 Alabama, number 11 Texas A&M at number 8 Kentucky tonight in some college basketball.
You think Kentucky's extremely happy about what's going on with them?
Yes. Oh, I got a feeling. It wouldn't surprise me if those fans are sending letters to Arkansas, just to the athletic department, addressed to John Calipari. Hope you and your pros are having a good time in Fayetteville.
Yeah, because I read an article yesterday. Apparently, he's not having the pros. Apparently, lo and behold, John Calipari is having some issues in Arkansas, and it read as if the same issues he was having in Kentucky. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I think they are very, very pleased up there with this little trade. Mark Pope was not their number 1 guy. They made a ridiculous run at Dan Hurley. They made a ridiculous run.
Which, by the way, not great either.
Yeah,
they're fine, but
yeah, they're not up to. Well, you're basing them on back-to-back seasons, back-to-back national championship seasons.
Yes.
And no, they're 14th in the country. They're 13-4. They just dropped 5 spots. They lost to Villanova last week. They're not on their championship level. When you win back-to-back, your standard is higher.
Correct.
So we mentioned it, top 25 in college basketball. Auburn number 1, Iowa State, because we're all well aware of what's going on at Iowa State. Raise your hand if you can name the Iowa State basketball coach. And if you can name him, excellent job being able to pronounce his name. Duke, number 3 in the country. Alabama, 4. Florida's 5. That's probably the biggest surprise to me, 15-1 Gators. Number 6 is Tennessee. Number 7 is your boy, Shaka Smart and Marquette.
Okay.
Number 8, Kentucky. Number 9, Kansas. Number 10, Houston. That is the brand new top 10 out today. Again, 9 SEC teams in the top 25, led by Auburn at number 1, Alabama at 4, Florida at 5, Tennessee at 6, Kentucky at 8, Texas A&M at 11, Mississippi State at 15. You've got Mississippi at 21, Georgia at 23, and I feel like I missed one somewhere in there, but a lot of teams from the SEC there. And again, we'll talk more tomorrow about South Carolina Vanderbilt, a game, Preston. I don't want to do that overly dramatic thing.
Why not?
Because you can bounce back, but and this is a pivotal, and this is fluid. It's fluid.
Do it, Bill.
But if you're to start looking down the list of like, all right, where can we turn the season?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you have to kind of make your last stand, if you will, to keep this thing from going completely off the rails? It's conceivably tomorrow night against Vanderbilt.
Do it, Bill.
It's conceivably tomorrow night. Oklahoma's fallen out of the rankings. Okay? And remember, this is fluid. So what I'm about to read to you is fluid. Oklahoma's fallen out of the rankings. Vanderbilt's not near the rankings. But after this week, non-ranked Vanderbilt, non-ranked Oklahoma, both road games, you get number 5 Florida. This is consecutively. Number 5 Florida. Number 15 Mississippi State. At number 23, Georgia. Number 11, Texas A&M. At number 8, Kentucky. Number 21, Mississippi. At number 5, Florida. That's 7 consecutive games against, as of today, ranked opponents. We knew the SEC was a gauntlet.
So they have 7 consecutive games against ranked opponents. And these next 2 games are against
non-ranked
opponents. So what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for, Bill? Do it. Do it. Do it. What are we waiting for?
I'm being peer pressured into saying this is the game of the year.
Thank you. This is it. What are we waiting for? We got 7 games against
and Oklahoma just fell out of the ranking. Vanderbilt hadn't been close to the rankings, which is why
we got to get these games.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it. We can't. We're 0-3. 0-4 sounds a lot worse. 0-5 is even worse. 2-3. Now we maybe can hear some.
Vanderbilt's 13-3 overall, but 1-2 in conference play.
So it's the most important stretch of the season by far. These, if they do not, and they need to win both of these games.
Okay.
They don't need to split these games, because if you split these games, then you got all of that stuff in the backside. Let's not be gentle with them. They made the tournament team. This is supposed to be we're trying to make advancements as a basketball program. They need to go out and win these games. Period.
Yeah.
Biggest games of the season.
Biggest Vanderbilt.
Not his career. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
The biggest game of the season.
Vanderbilt is without a doubt, and it's a road game. Vanderbilt is the weakest opponent that they will play.
They got to win.
Oklahoma was ranked, and Oklahoma's lost 3 straight. I thought Oklahoma was overrated going into conference play. They might be living up to that right now with losses, with significant losses to Alabama, a 2-point loss to A&M, and a 10-point loss on the road to Georgia. They've got Texas tomorrow night, and that game, that'll be a 10 o'clock game on the SEC network. But yes, to your point,
let's do it. Do it.
Any game, and they showed that Saturday. You can be competitive with Auburn. But if we're being honest, if you lose these 2 and you're 0-5, you're kind of staring down the barrel of a potential 0-12 start.
Yeah, because now you're facing other demons. Now you're facing the idea of like, man, what's going on in this team? Now you go back to this culture idea. Now you go back to, can we keep the team together? Can they keep playing when they've already had some of these issues to start the season? But you get 2 wins, and you start to believe in the things that the coach is saying. So, yeah, I think these games are probably more important, the most important stretch of the season for them.
I am with you. There's no doubt about that, because I'll be honest, the next important stretch would be the other 3 teams that are slightly above average or better. But by the time you get to that, that's games 13, 14, and 15.
And the thing could be way off the rails.
Yeah, and that's LSU, Texas, and Missouri. And it ain't exactly like none of those three are awful teams. I'm just saying by the time you get to that stretch. So we'll do a lot of that tomorrow. We'll get into a lot of that tomorrow because, yes, this is pivotal. And I will just say this, too. Mark it down. 10-6. I don't know. You can set the goalpost wherever you want to set them with this team. If you want to be that guy, if you want to be that person who's like, well, if they don't make the NCAA tournament, it's a complete failure and he's taking a huge step back. Okay, fine. If you want to be the person who's like, well, they better make the NIT. They better at bare minimum make the NIT. I will say this. You can't have another losing season, like an overall losing season. And you're 10-6 right now. 0-3 in conference. You simply cannot have a 16-17 type year if it were to come to that. You cannot have a losing record overall. That is a massive step back for this program off an NCAA tournament berth. You know, a winning record doesn't guarantee the NIT at all with this new age NIT and the way they do things now, but you simply cannot revert back and have two losing seasons in the first three. I know the first year was a lot of circumstances, a lot of different things, fine, whatever, but you can't have it. So, yes, to your point, this is a huge stretch right here, and then you go in. Florida's playing way better than I would have ever anticipated. Mississippi State, I like Chris Jans, and they really play a style of basketball. It's not conducive to this basketball team right now. A&M I always think is overrated. Kentucky's a wildly different team than we were used to seeing under Calipari. They play like five guys who are supposed to be a team. So that different.
Yeah, I saw them passing the ball.
Yeah.
Setting screens.
Yeah.
Playing defense.
It looks like team-oriented basketball. So anyway, but we'll get to a lot of that tomorrow. Coming up, though.
Bill, I'm glad you did that.
You feel better?
I'm glad you did that.
And it's the most pivotal because I really feel like I don't know. I'm interested. I'll be down at Folly Beach on Saturday, Taste of Folly down there in Charleston, and I'm kind of excited to go to one of those little local bars that are out there. I know you've been out there, and hopefully it'll be nice weather and watch that Oklahoma game because it's a different venue for the Gamecocks to go to. So I have had that one circled, and it'll be a 4:00 game. So I am excited to go down and see it, or to go somewhere and watch that game. But I feel like when South Carolina goes into a new venue, maybe they keep it up. They went into a new venue in Oklahoma earlier this year and stomped a mud hole. Maybe that happens again in basketball, but it just feels like if you don't get this one, and now you got to make that long plane flight out there to Norman against a team that is playing better than expected, kind of like South Carolina was last year. And then I've watched Florida. Again, I'm shocked. I'm shocked by Florida. So 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We will help ease Preston through the Vikings loss last night. Deion Sanders speaking with Jerry Jones. Oh, dear. What else do we have in store for some NFL coaching carousel? We'll get into all of that. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. Let me tell you something. As we go into 2025, you might be thinking about refinancing. You might be thinking about moving, upgrading, downsizing, whatever it may be. Well, the first thing you need to do is check the interest rates and see what options are available to you, what money you can get, what down payment you need to put down. These are all important questions, maybe more important questions than just going out and finding that dream home. So the first thing you need to do is contact the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank, 803-719-1005. That's how you can reach out to him and see what products are available to you, such as the Community Reinvestment Product for Richland County, Blythewood, Northeast, Southeast, and the I-20 corridor, where they are offering a 4.99% interest with a 5.075 APR on a 30-year fixed mortgage. For more information, call Jacob Crowder today, 803-719-1005.
Still a pretty good slowdown there. Highway 378 between Mineral Springs and I-20, where the right lane is blocked. So having to get to the left. Barnwell, Old Barnwell, that is, at Emmanuel Church Road, an accident there. I-20 westbound at I-77. And Augusta Highway near I-26. One other to remind you about, and that's Beatty Road near Broad River Road. 54, that is what we're looking for a high today, overnight low of 30. 50 tomorrow, then we're in the upper 50s for the remainder of the week. Sunny skies prevail throughout the week. Just to have those cooler mornings around 30. And right now, we're sitting at 29 on 107.5 The Game.
It's a little unusual. You haven't seen too many situations like that. I don't know if it's ever occurred before. Certainly not in recent memory. It is unique, and this is kind of the way that it's worked out. I don't think it's going to hurt either side. And, the whole thing with Dallas all along was this, the way I was thinking it. Okay, clearly they're not moving forward with a deal for Mike McCarthy. So what are they doing? It wasn't ever going to get to the point in my mind where all of a sudden Tuesday was going to come and all of a sudden Jerry Jones is going to say, okay, we're not doing a deal with Mike McCarthy. What am I doing?
That is the words of Adam Schefter. He was on the Pat McCaffrey show. McAfee, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Talking about the bizarreness of the Mike McCarthy situation. Let me read you some names, and then we're going to go down a path. And I want you to tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, the ego.
No sevens.
Scale of 1 to 10, the ego of these coaches. Chan Gailey.
Who?
Ego, just.
I mean, I'm sure he had an ego in 93.
How about Dave Campo?
Yeah. 95.
Wade Phillips, ego?
Yeah, pretty high up there.
Okay.
Wade is the son of bum. He thinks highly of himself.
How about? And I say ego, but I should also say cult following, like Jason Garrett.
No.
Mike McCarthy.
No.
So you would say all those guys. Now in between there is a Bill Parcells, big ego, big personality, big following. Mm-hmm. There's also a Barry Switzer, big ego, big personality, big following, won a Super Bowl. Jimmy Johnson, biggest ego. But you notice Chan Gailey, Dave Campo, Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy. These are Jerry Jones hires. What do they all have in common? They are yes men to the owner.
They were all people who were glad to be there. He's like, I'm the coach of the Cowboys? Me? Really? Okay.
All yes men. All just, hey, you're right. Happy to be there. Happy to collect a check. Happy to wear the star. Do any of them even come close to Deion Sanders?
No. I would say that's a resounding no.
So let's start with this. The Cowboys are the highest valued franchise in all of sports, all in the world. They're the highest value. Look, we got into a discussion about this last week because I thought soccer teams in Europe were. Cowboys are. Jerry Jones apparently is. I don't think he's seeking Deion Sanders' advice when it says they're talking. I don't think he's asking Deion, hey, what do you think about this coach or that coach? Or what do you think I should do with the organization? According to Adam Schefter, Jerry Jones is at least talking to Deion Sanders about coaching the Cowboys. Sign me up. I'm all for it.
I think it would be interesting to say the least. There's one caveat, though. Deion says he is willing to take an NFL job if he can coach his sons. That would be multiple.
Well, he's going to have no problem with getting the second son. The Shiloh Sanders, people will be like, all right, you can have him.
Okay.
Shador, on the other hand, they'd have to I don't know. Do you trade Dak Prescott?
They've been trying to get rid of Dak for 5 years now. They didn't sign him to an extension. They've been playing around with his contract. They've never been in love with Dak. So they've been trying to do this for a while.
For the record, the Cowboys picked 12th. Cowboys picked 12th. Would somebody like the Titans, the Browns, the Giants be like, all right, fine, we'll take Dak Prescott and your 12th pick, and we'll call it a day?
Every one of those franchises would be greatly improved with Dak Prescott. The Giants, the Browns, and who else did you say?
The Titans.
And the Will Levis.
I agree.
Danny Dimes.
But would you take Dak Prescott? So follow me, because this is now being reported, and I don't know I don't feel like it's being used as leverage for Deion. Colorado ran out of bowl money, according to sources. I don't feel Deion has to look around and be like, and we've all agreed, what really was the future of Deion past Shador and Travis Hunter at Colorado? So I don't feel like it's a leverage play. I just feel like Jerry Jones has got to decide, can I deal with him as my head coach? And quite frankly, Deion might actually be a better professional head coach, not having to deal with NIL and college kids and all that. He might, quite frankly, be a better NFL coach dealing with pros and money than he would at the college level.
I mean, he was a very good coach at the college level as the end of the season, as the end of his term saw. So he won at Jackson State, he won at Colorado, so he was a good coach there. There's really no reason to believe that he wouldn't be able to be successful. Like I said, the condition being he wants his son as the quarterback, which would be an amazing power move. I'm not crazy about it, but if he has the power and the leverage to do that, and Jerry Jones is willing to bow to that, there might be something there. It'd be must-see TV for sure.
So how do you take that, the way they just let this contract run out? You heard Adam Schefter there. How do you take that with we're just going to let his contract run out and not re-sign him?
Yeah. That is, one, not cool, but even worse, according to reports, you blocked me from having an opportunity to talk to the Bears last week. So if you knew you weren't going to re-sign me, which obviously you knew, why would you block my opportunity to talk to another team, as they reported with Mike McCarthy?
I got that, but he could go talk to the Bears now. If the Bears knew the timeline, and look, it's not the NFL, it's not college where you're trying to put together a recruiting class. Like, if the Bears really wanted Mike McCarthy, and we all kind of knew as we knew that they weren't going to re-sign him, if the Bears wanted him, they're like, fine, well, listen, we're going to interview 2 or 3 other people. We'll circle back to you next Wednesday when we know your contract is officially up, and we'll talk to you then.
That's
Nothing's
fair.
blocking. Like, I get what you're saying on that. I don't know if it's hard for me to envision Jerry Jones sitting at his desk there, like twiddling his thumbs. You're like, do I want him? Do I not want him? Like, you knew. You probably knew halfway through the season, even with all the injuries. But I would assume if the Bears are interested, the Bears now, fine, go interview him now. Or start playing with Notre Dame's emotions and just keep lobbing it out there that you're just waiting on Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, a couple names I heard out there. Marcus Freeman, also back from the dead, Matt Campbell. Heard his name tossed around, so his name was always tossed around for college jobs, but his name, apparently he had an interview. So it's not even that his name was tossed around. He did interview for the job with the Bears. So, yeah, names are getting thrown around.
Right now, again, Brian Flores, another name that's being thrown around for the Bears.
Don't do it.
That would be
If you think that Brian Flores had a tough time with Tua,
yeah.
Brian Flores and Caleb Williams is a non-starter. Won't work.
This is off of ESPN.com, and this is their predictions. Dan Graziano making his predictions. He's got the Bears going with Brian Flores.
Terrible.
Okay, good.
Sorry, Jen.
Cowboys going with Kellen Moore, current.
His name's been tossed around a little bit.
I think he was there. I believe he was there as a offense coordinator at some point, if I'm thinking correctly. Okay. He's the current Eagles offense coordinator. Jacksonville going with current Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady, fired by the Carolina Panthers for being a bad offense coordinator. The Las Vegas Raiders going with Ben Johnson, current Detroit Lions offense coordinator. That might actually be a good hire.
That's probably the one that's the most legit. I mean, he's been waiting his time, and I guess probably after this year, it's time for you to go.
New Orleans Saints going with Aaron Glenn, which is the current defensive line, Detroit Lions defensive coordinator. So Dan Campbell's staff would be plucked. Jets, he's got Jets. Dan Graziano with ESPN, his predictions. He's got the Jets doing a Jets-esque thing. Arthur Smith, former Falcons, would have to get Tyler's take on this. Former Falcons head coach, current Steelers offensive coordinator.
Did you watch the Steelers offense? Have you seen the Steelers offense?
I try not to watch the
Okay,
Steelers.
yeah, you would not watch the Steelers offense because they were not good. In fact, they were the reason why they were who they were. The idea that they won as many games as they did with that offense is a miracle. So, no, I would not sign Arthur Smith.
But we do agree, Deion Sanders, really to any of these franchises would be fun, but Deion Sanders to Dallas.
Do it, Jerry. This is the thing. Jerry, it's not a lot of time left.
Exactly.
Go ahead and make a splash, man. Let's just go ahead and go out with a bang.
Put Shador in there. Trade Dak Prescott to the Titans.
Go for it.
Get the number 1 pick. Trade Prescott and the number 12
Put Shiloh on the
pick.
practice squad.
Send him to the Titans. Get the number 1 pick. Draft Shador and let's go. Huh?
Just do it. Let's go. I'm you know what? I'm all in for it now. I guess whatever, man. Jerry, you gave that great speech on Landman. You're acting now. You don't have much time to make an impact. And I'm going to tell you, hiring Kellen Moore or hiring any of those other coaches is just going to get a big meh from the fans. This is the hire you want to make.
Let's head to the break listening to Troy Aikman talk about the uncertainty, his uncertainty on the desirability of the Cowboys job.
Well, I thought Mike McCarthy would be the head coach. So this is a bit of a surprise for me today that he's not going to be. And what went into those conversations that Schefter talked about, I'm not exactly sure, but it suggests that there's not a real plan. I mean, and the fact that they haven't had the opportunity to maybe interview a Ben Johnson and some of these others, Aaron Glenn. I think that what Schefter said as far as Kellen Moore being a candidate, that seems logical to me. A guy who has familiarity with the building. He's worked obviously with the Cowboys and with Jerry Jones, and they know each other very well. In fact, when Mike McCarthy got the job, it was told to Mike that Kellen Moore would be the offensive coordinator. So that's how much the Jones family thinks of him. Beyond that, it's hard to imagine. As far as a coveted job, I don't know that that's accurate. I mean, really? I do think the Cowboys are obviously a high-profile team. Whoever is covering or whoever is head coach of that team is certainly going to draw a lot of attention. But I think most football people that take over as a head coach, they want to do it on their terms.
That's fair.
That's hard to do. And it's, if you take a Dan Campbell, for instance, is Dan Campbell if he's with the Dallas Cowboys? It's hard to imagine that he is. It's hard to imagine that a lot of these coaches might be. So I love the Dallas Cowboys. I played there for 12 years. I wish them well. But to say that it's a coveted job, I'm not sure I would necessarily agree with that.
We will discuss that more. And getting benched for not doing your NIL job, we'll discuss that. You're listening to The Early Game.
New year, same pain. Why? Get with the folks at QC Kinetics to get you moving now. So you don't need pain in your knees, your hips, your back, your shoulders. You can make the decision now and say, I'm not going to do it, and get moving again with help from QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine and joint preservation. You can revitalize your joints with advanced orthobiologic treatments at QC Kinetics. That means no drugs, no surgery, and no downtime. This is the future of medicine, and they use natural solutions like PRP to attack the pain from arthritis. So if you want to learn more about how you can refresh your joints and get lasting relief, call the folks at QC Kinetics for a free consultation. Call QC Kinetics at 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860.
It's been a little bit busy out there for your Tuesday morning. 378 between Mineral Springs and I-20. The right lane continues to be blocked. Also an accident, Beatty Road near Broad River Road. Corley Mill Road near River Chase Way. Highway 1 near I-26. Also I-20 westbound at I-77. Old Barnwell Road at Emmanuel Church. Old National Highway at Highway 1. And let's see, 277 southbound at I-20. One more, Juniper Springs Road near Two Notch Road. And hopefully all this gets cleared off so we can enjoy a day. Mostly sunny, 54. Same for tomorrow with a high of about 50. Sunny and 57 on Thursday. Your mornings around 30. 29 currently.
Reminder, on Friday, we will be out at Pro Swing. You can come by and see us. We're downtown, 4708 Forest Drive in Columbia. Over at Pro Swing, we'll be hanging out with the guys there 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So Preston and I will be there from 6 to 9 in the morning, and then the rest of the crew will follow on in, and you can swing by and hang out as we will be broadcasting live from Pro Swing, 4708 Forest Drive in Columbia, and want to let you know they've got their first annual Pro Swing Golf Classic. It's coming up. It's a 2-day event, January 30th and 31st, $150 to register, a 2-man team. Bookings are available from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Food is included. You can win $1,000 for first place, so it's a cash prize, $750 for second place, and $500 for third. Plus, there will be a drawing for Gamecock baseball tickets that you will register for, and just by registering, you could win. Call today and get registered for the first annual Pro Swing Golf Classic. It's an indoors tournament, if you're wondering. Winter Indoor Golf Tournament, 803-528-1617. Again, it's 803-528-1617, an indoor golf tournament. Speaking of which, tonight, the TGL is back, Preston.
Tiger's playing this time?
Tiger is playing tonight. And you and I joked about it the other day. If you didn't see it last week, if you didn't follow it last week, it's virtual golf. It's just like being at Pro Swing. They're hitting into a bigger screen, and they're hitting off of the real grass. They got pallets of grass, and they got all this stuff. But then probably, I guess, maybe 50 yards behind them. So they hit into the big screen, and 50 yards behind them is a green, a fake green, if you will. It's got all of the new mechanics, new things that can change the contour of the green.
It's fascinating. You need to Google this. I've seen these videos of, the pneumatics of the, everything. It's lifting the green, then bringing them down a little bit and changing your light. It's incredible technology.
It is really, really cool. And tonight we've got 7 o'clock on ESPN. You have the New York, that's next week. Tonight is the Los Angeles Golf Club. I do like what they've named these teams. The Los Angeles Golf Club against the Jupiter Links Golf Club. Jupiter Links Golf Club. So tonight it's 4-man teams, but they every week it's 3 guys. They sit one guy out. Tonight, Colin Morikawa, Justin Rose, and Sahith Theegala for Los Angeles against Max Homa, Aiken's-own. I think he's Aiken's-own. We're going to claim him for the state. Aiken's-own, Kevin Kisner, and Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods is a permanent player on these teams?
He is the captain, and he is the player. He will be playing tonight.
Okay.
7 o'clock if you want to tune in to ESPN. I will say this. It's worth tuning in. After 5 minutes, make your own decision and call us tomorrow and let us know what you thought. 803-404-6100. That is tonight. Let's go out to the phone lines. Ray wants to weigh in on Deion Sanders and also Gamecock men's basketball. Ray, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning. Yeah, I think, there are times with a team when things get stale. And I think, McCarthy's a good coach, but, things have gotten stale. I think Dak's a very good NFL quarterback, but it's gotten stale with him as well. I mean, if you can get Deion and you can get his son, I think it's a win-win for the Dallas Cowboys. It would infuse excitement in their program, which they definitely need. I mean, it would be the talk of the offseason. So I think good things would come from it. And in Deion's case, we used to say, well, he's never coached before. Well, he's coached now. He's coached in the SWAC and he's coached in major college now. they'll say, "Oh, he's never coached the NFL." I think Jerry Jones has nothing to lose right now. I think he's got to do something to infuse some excitement in that program. So I'm on board. Okay, and as far as our Gamecock basketball team, I think we've got to keep playing to take that ball. And Bill, I'm sure you played a little guard, when you were a player in high school. I think we've got to just take that ball and drive it to the hole, and hopefully get fouled or dish it off to one of the bigs, because that offense has got to run through CMB and Pringle. It just does. You got to get the ball down there, and we just got to quit coming down and launching threes, which that's kind of what we did in that last game, and we could have, should have, of course, but I think we just got to play tough. We got to just become a tough physical basketball team like we did in that game against Harvard, and just continue that and see what happens. And no, I don't think this is a tournament team. It's not an NIT team, but like you said, Bill, if we could try to, be 500 or a little better, I think that would go a long ways. But anyway, hey, guys, thanks for letting me put my 2 cents in.
I appreciate the phone call, Ray. And we'll talk a lot more college basketball tomorrow, recap the games from tonight, the 3 top 25 games taking place in the SEC. Actually, a really good night, Preston. 7 o'clock, you got 3 top 25 SEC basketball games. If you want to get into this golf league, you can get into that. So a good night here for a little bit of sports watching early on.
I'm going to commit to at least tuning in.
I want to hear your opinion of this tomorrow, because it's entertaining enough to check it out. I don't know if it's entertaining enough for you to put 15 minutes of your life into it. Like, you might watch a couple shots. Like, you might watch the first hole and be like, are they hitting to a screen? Okay, the green's back. And be like, okay, I've seen all I need to see.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
So I look forward to your report tomorrow on the golf league and how many timed minutes you spent watching it.
Gotcha.
One story from yesterday that really interesting, especially given our current status here in the world of sport with NIL. Rick Barnes, old school basketball coach, has no problem pulling really most players over pretty much anything. Story is out now over the weekend that he benched Chaz Lanier. Now, Chaz Lanier is averaging 19 points a game, second leading scorer in the SEC. He is a guy that is dangerous, has played for North Florida, by the way, last year. We all know who North Florida is. Played for North Florida last year. Transferred to Tennessee over Kentucky, Arkansas, and a few other programs. They are saying he's being paid in the vicinity of $100,000. So some are saying it's a little bit more, some are saying it's a little less for NIL. He is a 42% shooter from the field. He is a 43% shooter from three-point land. Didn't take a three designed specifically for him on Saturday, a play drawn up specifically for him. He did not shoot the three. He got pulled and benched because, as Rick Barnes said, this is what we are paying you for, to shoot the three, make or miss. You don't shoot, you don't play. It is a neat, wild story.
Yeah, unfortunately, Rick Barnes has a misunderstanding of what this is. Maybe he understands it actually, or maybe we're just playing a very big charade of what we're trying to do as far as players. You can bench a player, but as it is currently stated, they are not being paid for performance, which has nothing to do with what they're doing on the court. So in this situation, I understand what you're saying, Rick Barnes, but that is not the case.
Well, but Rick Barnes told multiple outlets after the game, I took him out the first play of the second half because he did not shoot the ball. That play was designed for that shot. And I told him, if you're not going to do what you're getting paid to do, you sit over here, because he is getting paid to do that.
What?
Shoot the ball.
But he's not. So I don't understand. Rick, I don't understand what you have a misunderstanding of the current situation. Now, you may want that to be happening. And like most people, hey, man, you telling me I have to work less and still get this money? Okay. Is that what we want to do now? I don't know what he's trying to do with that.
Interest. I mean, it's just, and you can't argue with Rick Barnes. One more, Barnes applied that logic to Lanier. He's getting NIL money to create offense. He drew up a play for his fifth-year senior to do that job. When he didn't, Barnes sat him to reinforce the lesson. How about that with NIL now? 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on the Tuesday morning show. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the family, they've been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. They are the leader because they think about your roof 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You could give them a phone call right now. You'll speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee, and they will help you with a maintenance contract, and that is exactly what you need. So give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. Whether it's your home or your business, whether you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta, somewhere in this great state, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you because they design and install bonded systems with a protective guarantee that keeps your operation dry and running long into the future. Let me tell you, with a business, with your home, staying dry and keeping that operation running, pretty important. So give them a phone call today and line up a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 8:49 as we wrap things up here on your Tuesday morning, getting you up, getting you going. We'll be back tomorrow morning to get all fired up, talk a little bit about the South Carolina basketball game against Vanderbilt, get a little more into stats as we broke some of those down. We'll also talk about the Golf League or the tech-infused Golf League.
What a bad name.
We'll get into
It's tomorrow's Golf League. That's the name.
Golf League.
Yeah, tomorrow. Well,
Describing it's tech infused, but it's tomorrow's Golf League.
Unfortunately, last week you say that because I did watch it. They kept referring to it as the tech infused. That's why when I came in here last week, I was like, no, it's 2 words. And some people were like, no, it's called tomorrow's Golf League. And I was like, that's not what they called it on television at all.
Yeah, they were trying to just, I think, describe it more than actually give the name. So, yeah, they need to clarify the branding on that because it's a little confusing.
A little confusing.
So, yep, we've got that going for us there as well. One odd story from yesterday that we will leave you with here because Lane Kiffin got involved as well. If you have not kind of followed the story of Sydney Thomas, are we familiar with Sydney Thomas? Anybody familiar with Sydney Thomas? She was the ring girl for the Tyson Paul fight, right? She has risen to prominence now. Actually has family that lives here, lives over in Lexington. But she has risen to prominence. She goes to the University of Alabama. Well, apparently, according to her in an interview, after kind of her rise to prominence, she said that one SEC football coach slid into her DMs with a just a simple, it wasn't hitting on her or anything, just a simple roll tide. Now, she has refused to name who, but obviously speculation centered around a couple different coaches. You got a 1A, 1B, because I feel like my list here is going to be a little bit different on which SEC coach went into the DMs to just hit her with a roll tide. Now, again, she's a student at, I believe she's still a student at Alabama.
I'm not currently looking at the Alabama coaches roster, but I put my money on some analyst.
Well,
does she say SEC head coach? Or does she say SEC coach?
She said SEC coach.
Well, there's a lot of them.
That is true. That is true, which opened the door for one particular offensive coordinator.
Okay.
To potentially work away. Now, everybody's first. Who do you think? Who do we think we all instantly looked at first that would pull this move? There's only one guy that we would the very first guy. And he sure enough put out a tweet yesterday to Lane Kiffin, right? Lane Kiffin's the first guy.
Okay.
Lane Kiffin's the absolute first guy that we are all like, come on, Lane, really? I don't think it was Lane Kiffin. And you're right, it could have been an analyst.
SEC coach is a very
broad term, but it's more fun to look at the head coaches here.
Mm-hmm.
As Unnecessary Roughness tweeted, Sydney Thomas shares that an SEC coach slid into her DMs after the Tyson Paul fight. Who is this mystery man? And Preston, as you can see, they've got a picture of a awkwardly smiling Lane Kiffin after their bowl game. But this doesn't seem Lane Kiffin-esque.
Okay.
So I came up with 1A and 1B.
All right.
Hugh Freeze, Bobby Petrino.
Well,
this feels like too amateur hour for Lane Kiffin.
Solid betting favorites for sure. Both have solid scouting reports where that might check out. But yeah, I don't know, man. There's also, again, I just like to explore the possibility of her creating an opportunity for clout and saying an SEC coach. And that SEC coach could be somebody very low on the SEC totem pole.
Well, the thing is not long after that yesterday, a picture popped up on the internet, a recent picture of her and former Alabama coach Nick Saban at a golf tournament to which Lane Kiffin couldn't help himself, right? As only Lane Kiffin can do. Lane Kiffin couldn't help himself and promptly retweeted the picture. We have the answer. Roll Tide, roll.
Okay, I get it now. All right, so this is the whole saga that was happening.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Went down a whole path yesterday where in the SEC, even for the coaches, it just means more, Preston.
Again, please don't ascribe too much in any type of characteristics to these people. They are just football coaches. They are not better than you or me. They are just football coaches who make a lot of money. Do not ascribe anything to them. They're idiots like you and me. They're just rich.
Very rich. That is
And
that
can
is
draw
indeed.
plays.
Lane Kiffin there, always entertaining as always. But South Carolina may have trolled him back after he tried to troll South Carolina on the Brandon Cisse commitment. Gamecocks land a commitment from Brandon Cisse last night. We'll come back tomorrow and do it all over
We're
again.
back.
Y'all have a great rest of the day.